Welcome to Profit Talks. It's Sunday, February 22nd, 2026. It's a beautiful day, and as usual, today we will go over top global events of the week. And pretty obviously, we will start off with Iran and the situation there. As you know, there is a chance of a deal, but there is also a chance of strikes as we see a lot of military equipment being moved from the US towards the Middle East. I will cover the developments of the week, the price movement, and I will try to theorize where we can go from now on. But if you are really interested in the Iran situation and what can happen in the end, then I invite you to take a look at my Substack on profitnotes.com. Just today, I published an update to my thesis where I explore the possibility of a deal, what will happen with the strikes or military equipment that's being moved, and ultimately where we will end up in a few months from now. So if you're interested in that, take a look. I publish geopolitical and political theses on various global events on a bi-weekly basis. So make sure to subscribe if you're interested in the topics. But besides the wars, we'll also focus this week on Hungary. There are elections coming in Hungary that are pretty consequential for the whole European Union. And this week we had a very interesting development in Hungarian politics that's worth mentioning. And I also believe this is a good moment to do an introduction into the whole election dynamics and to start the coverage of the situation. And lastly, we'll talk about something entirely different, which is aliens. We had some interesting information coming from the US, and looking at the price movement on prediction markets, I think it's worth talking about because some disclosures are coming. So let's start off with Iran. I decided to analyze with you the February 28th strike market as first. I think it shows the situation very well because we are starting off just before the negotiations in Geneva. You can see there chances of a strike were pretty low at 13%. But then after the talks where nothing concrete was really said, there was no massive development or a huge step towards a deal. So people got a bit anxious, traders and analysts, but the real deal and the real volatility on the market we can actually observe almost 2 days later, because somewhere around Wednesday we started to see all these open intelligence accounts, so OSINT accounts, pretty much showing us that there is a massive airlift from the US towards Middle East. And this is on top of everything that's already there, the Lincoln carrier strike group and the Ford carrier strike group that is on the way. It's pretty much everyone I know has started to talk about the possibility of imminent strikes. The yes price went really up to almost 40 cents, 39 cents here, but then it also fell off pretty hard because day after day we didn't really see any strikes. We also saw some conflicting reporting, and then also the whole deal started to emerge because soon after the meetings in Geneva ended, we heard from both sides, from Iran and from the US, that they agreed on the scope of the agreement, so what will be included, what will be excluded, and they agreed to both draft their own versions, so Oman can reconcile them, and basically the US can understand if there is a path towards a deal, or is it just a fake out and this equipment will actually need to be used. So I think this tempered expectations a bit, but still we heard a lot about the massive airlift because it never ended. So every day we were bombarded with news about a massive amount of military equipment being moved into the region, and a lot of people that were saying that basically with such a cost and so many movements, the strikes are almost guaranteed. If you ask me, I don't believe the situation is as clear as they try to portray it. I have a pretty well-rounded thesis around what can happen, and you can it's a pretty long one, so you can read it on my Substack. But before we move to Hungary, I also want to highlight a bit the deal market. We can also do a weekly view here. It's pretty nice to have this optionality. And as you can see, we started the week off at 43%, which was pretty much the price for yes even previously. Then we went from meeting pretty much flat. It's not a market with a lot of volume, sadly, uh, which is a bit shocking to me considering how important the deal is to the whole situation in Iran. But anyway, somewhere around February 19, as you can see, the traders and analysts started to see that there was some progress made and that there is in fact a lot of value in understanding if both sides were serious or not, so seeing the both drafts. And this is what we've been seeing since then. So the yes price moved from like 44, 46 cents up to 53 now. And the movement you can see here is probably the same, has probably the same reason as the movement here. And this is, then there was the first rumor about Marco Rubio visiting Israel next weekend. And here, 2 days later, or 1 day later, we got the actual confirmation that Marco Rubio is in fact going to Israel on February 28th. So people not only figure out that maybe strikes will happen, but also figured that since there are some high-level conversation taking place, maybe there really is a path towards a deal. We'll see. If you want to know my opinion, you know where to look. And now I think you, as well as me and everyone, is pretty tired of the whole Iran situation. So let's turn our attention to something completely different, which is Hungary. And here we have a very interesting market because Peter Magyar, who is the leader of the Hungarian opposition, suddenly uploaded a video online saying that he believes he's been targeted by the Hungarian government and some kind of agent was sent after him to seduce him and honey trap him. He was supposedly recorded having sex with her in some hotel room. And he said he believes that the government, so the ruling party, uh, wants to release it soon to discredit him in order to have an easier path to win the election. Uh, it's a nice introduction to Hungarian politics because, as you can see, the stakes are really high. On the one side, we have Viktor Orban, who has been the leader of Hungary for over a decade. He's right-wing conservative. He doesn't really support the Ukraine war or the woke agendas or the liberal worldview that the EU is holding. Um, and this is really a thorn in the side of EU because every time there is some sanction package, Viktor Orban wants to veto it. Every time there is some kind of a serious conversation about helping Ukraine, Viktor Orban is out. And the only way to proceed is either to give him something, so he approves, or the decision is blocked. So from the EU perspective, having the opposition win is a pretty important thing to do this year. In fact, it may be the most important thing they do this year. On the other side, we have the US, and we understand that the US is at odds with the EU. In fact, they have selected a few European countries they really want to work with, and one of them is Hungary. So we in fact know that the US administration has visited Viktor Orban and it supports him. So this election will be especially interesting because we will have two very large groups of interest clashing against each other on a very, very consequential election. Because on the one side, we'll have the EU, all the funds associated with the EU that will push really hard for the opposition to win. And on the other side, we'll have the US and all the funding that is associated with the US that will push for Orban to actually hold on to power. So we can expect a lot of dirty tricks, we can expect a lot of drama, and probably somewhere around March, we should hear about it more and more often. And as you can see here, at least for now, the opposition is leading slightly, but surely. People expect that after over a decade of ruling, Viktor Orban will finally lose and leave the office. I don't believe it is that simple. I do believe we might see a lot of dirty tricks from both sides. I don't think like we will turn dictatorial at any point. I don't think we are at that level anywhere in the developed world, if you ask me. But this will be surely interesting. As you can see, at some point, I think it was around, no, it was before the threat. Uh, these prices were really, really close to each other. Right now, we're a bit further apart uh, for no real reason other than polls that are incoming, but we were still a long way before the election. Hungary is not the US when the election cycle lasts a whole year. Here in Eastern Europe or Central Eastern Europe, the campaign cycle is a lot shorter and usually 1-2 months ahead of the election, the real campaign kicks off. Mm, so yeah, it's a. I wanted to discuss this situation because it's a really good introduction to the topic. I will cover Hungary election in great detail. I believe they're very important for the future of European Union uh, and the US strategy in the region as well. So as you can see, there are a lot of traders that also believe so. There is almost 21 million in volume on those markets, which is pretty huge for a country that probably a few years ago would be difficult to point on the map for most Americans. All right, and this is Hungary, and lastly we'll talk about aliens. So as you probably know, there's a group of people that believe the aliens are real and that the US government has already made contact, etc., etc. I'm not here to judge if they're right, if they're wrong, but there is surely something interesting in all those sightings that were described or even recorded. From a few years ago, we know that the US government has some really curious recordings of some really curious objects that move as if they were made in another world. They're too fast, they accelerate too fast, they have no visible propulsion system. So this is pretty much alien technology if you ask anyone. But as you also know, the governments are not really keen on touching this topic. It's somewhat of a sensitive issue. Uh, when there is any opportunity, they usually deny any existence of aliens or non-human intelligence, as they are recently called, because I guess there's a chance that this non-human intelligence actually lives on the Earth, and that's why there is a difference in wording. But anyway, aliens once again made headlines after Barack Obama gave an interview on a podcast. I don't remember the podcast name right now, but there was a series of like flash questions, so like answer fast. And the one question was if Obama believes that aliens are real, and he said yes. And everyone thought, oh my God, the U.S. president is pretty much the ex-U.S. president is pretty much confirming that aliens are real. This is big news, etc., etc. And then Obama started to explain himself that this is only his belief, that he never encountered any aliens during his time as president. Uh, yeah, so this was the drama. Even Donald Trump commented first, he said that Obama is making a big mistake, kind of stirring the pot by saying that because it suggests at least that there are some files that describe aliens that Trump may have seen. And then suddenly Trump decided that he'll order to disclose most of the files that relate to UAPs. So any phenomena that cannot be explained, such as all those vehicles, aircrafts with no propulsion system. So people went euphoric. The actual yes price spiked at some point to 26 cents on a pretty liquid market, as you can see, on a very liquid market, as you can see. To move the price by 3 cents, you need $90,000, which is no small feat. But then the expectations are a bit tempered because realistically, this is not the first time we are talking about aliens or the age of disclosure or the final confirmation that aliens exist. Like we've seen those before, even a couple of years ago. I don't remember the name of the guy now, but there was this whistleblower that had the whole hearing in Congress, which was very interesting. Actually, you should try to listen to it if you didn't. But there was never anything that came out of it, and a lot of people still believe that even if a lot of documents are declassified and there will be a lot of new information, it won't be anything like, yes, aliens are real, this is the picture of one of them. And I tend to agree with those people because it will be a massive, massive news. Mm, Something really hard to control. I don't think everyone understands how big of a news that would be. I'm not sure how a lot of people would react, how a lot of churches or faiths and leaders of the faiths would react. This would be groundbreaking for us as humans. Like I for one would love to know that aliens are real. Like I suppose they should be, looking at how huge the universe is. But having something like that confirmed with a photo, or even with a video, that would be crazy. Like 10 years ago, I didn't really think the U.S. government could do something like that. And then you think that midterms are coming and the situation in the US is not great, the situation near Iran is even worse, and it's a pretty good distraction topic. But I wouldn't put a lot of faith into such an analysis. There are plenty of different distractions, be it Epstein or any other topic that's floated in the recent months. It can be Cuba, it can be Venezuela, it can be migration, closed borders, anything. A case against Jerome Powell. Like there's plenty of stories that Trump can just choose as distraction, and it doesn't have to be disclosing that aliens are real. But anyway, I'll be looking into the files diligently, as I do want them to be disclosed. Like I don't know if they're real. I suppose they are. I kind of want them to be real, and so I will definitely look over the files. But I don't have huge expectations. I think the US price of 14 cents is pretty much aligned with my fair value on what are the chances that the US government actually confirms that aliens exist. But just though also see if the rules are ambiguous in any case. So any member of uh, president, member of a cabinet, member of joint chief of staff, or any US federal agency definitively states that extraterrestrial life or technology exists. Okay, so this market is actually not that great because extraterrestrial implies that any alien that comes here doesn't actually live on Earth, and there are some theories that they might be from here. That's why the change in wording from extraterrestrial to non-human intelligence. But anyway, I think that's all I wanted to say about the topic. I think it's been an interesting week for sure because like besides these markets we have thought are the most interesting, we also had ex Prince Andrew being arrested for his connections to Jeffrey Epstein. He was later released, but we can expect some kind of a criminal case against him. So there is this whole Iran situation. We also heard that the talks around Ukraine peace may have collapsed, as Zelensky was supposedly saying that the country needs to be ready for another 3 years of war. But I do think that the Ukraine topic will get a lot more coverage from me in March. I think that regardless if the talks have collapsed now or not, we will hear more about the topic because I believe it's really important for Trump to actually close the conflict or completely exit from it as the US by probably June, where the midterms campaign really kicks off. And he needs to show a win, and the win is either solving the conflict or showing that the US has no more connection to it. So yeah, I pretty much hinted on what I'm looking at in the near future. It's Hungary, it's Ukraine, it's aliens, but it's not really around the markets. It's mostly to satisfy my own interest. Uh, Other than that, next week we also have State of the Union, which shouldn't be really groundbreaking, but it probably will be a bit fun, as Trump usually likes to ramble on. So I'll be watching that as well. Maybe trade some mention markets when it comes to that. And otherwise, that's everything I wanted to share with you. Make sure to subscribe here, to like the video, comment for reach, or if you find anything particularly interesting or want to ask a question. And also, if you want to hear more from me, then short form is on X with Profit Notes, and long form is on profitnotes.com. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week for another round of Profit Talks.